I am going to go ahead and review assignment 5, review quiz 3. The one new piece of content that we're going to talk about today is variable length arrays, and then we're also going to talk about assignment 6. Fun. So assignment 5. What I think I'm going to do is go over here, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through the pseudocode and actually run through it and program it out really quick.
So you're going to show us the actual code?
Yeah. I have also posted or put the actual code in dist, so you can look at assignment5.c right here. So that's my solution to the problem. I have the sample code or sample executable for assignment 6. So all right, so here we go.
So one thing, could you explain better later that I don't understand is the seating.
The seating, yep, we'll talk more about that later. But so any specific questions on assignment 5 that I can cover when I'm going over it? All right. So I'm going to try and write out this code. Might not end up being perfectly correct, but I'm going to try and show you how I would interpret the pseudocode and end up writing the code, the actual code. So we'll just start out with the rectangle. So for all of my functions that I wrote, I just say void and then whatever I was doing, no parameters, and then inside the function I would declare variable or declare length width. Then I would prompt. Then I would scanf into both of those. And then I would make, so where are we at, rectangle here? So 0 to length and 0 to width, that means we're going to need 2 indexes. So we're going to need, I'll just say int I, int j. So I will be our length index. And then j will be our height index. Then I'd say for I equals 0, I is less than length or height, you could choose either or, plus I, and inside this loop, I'd go ahead and say for j equals 0, j is less than width, plus j. And then I'd print out my star inside of it. And then at the end of the function, I'd also print a new line. So that is the rectangle function. So for the triangle, we only have to read in one number. We'd say void triangle. We'll say h for height, and we'll just scanf into height. We would say, so we're going to need 3 index variables. We're going to need height to 0, 0 to outer index, and 0 to height minus outer index. And we're going to need another variable to store height minus outer index. So we'll say int I, this will be outer, and then we'll say inner, or this is our inner index for space. Inner index for height. And then temp for height minus outer index. And I would say temp. So how we'd start this off, we'd say for I equals height, I is greater than or equal to 0, I minus minus I. And now this loop will loop from height down to 0. Now one of the things we want to make sure we do here is we don't want to manipulate height because we need the actual height for later calculations. A lot of things in triangle code didn't work that I saw was people were using height and they were decrementing height, but you should never actually end up modifying height. So first loop we need to do is we need to print the spaces. So we need to say for I equals 0, I is less than, or not, sorry, I is our outer index. We need to use the index for spaces. We need to say j equals 0, j is less than the outer index, which is I. And we need to say plus plus j. And then we print our spaces. Guys, can we not? Okay, so that's our first inner loop using the inner index for space. Then we'd do another loop. We'd say using our second index, I'd say k equals 0. But before I need to do that, I need to calculate height minus outer index. So I'd take temp. I'd say temp equals height minus I. And then I would say k is less than temp. And then plus plus k. And then I'd print a star. And then at the very end, I would print a new line. So really quick, I'm just going to make a main function that we'll just call rectangle and then triangle. Hopefully I didn't mess up that much. I think I misspelled something. Yeah, I was using height, not h. So let's go back and change that really quick. I think I misspelled rectangle. Yeah, so just do it. That's just a misspelling. Ideally not. If you have a lot of warnings, something's probably going wrong. So I missed a new line in my rectangle, whatever. And don't know exactly what happened there. So let's go back. I think I forgot on the triangle to print out the new line, just like I forgot in the rectangle. So I want to move my new line up inside our inner loop here. And then I want to go down here on my triangle code, and I want to move my new line up inside my inner loop here. So it's 1010. I got to recompile it. So that's my rectangle, and that's a right triangle. That's not what I want though. So what I actually want is I only want to print out a single space here. So that will allow me to print out the triangle. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 tall. So that's the triangle code. Moving on to Let's see, I'll skip X to Y. I think everyone who submitted anything got that one perfectly right. Filled stairs was easy, but I will do outline stairs and diamond. So, outline stairs, we need to read in the height from the user. So, int height we're going to need 2 indexes, just like with the rectangle. We're going to need int I for our inner index, int j for our outer index. Then we'd say for I equals 0, I is less than height, plus I. So entering the body of our outer loop, we'd say for j equals 0, j is less than the outer index, which is I, and then we'd say plus j, and then we'd need to decide if we're at an edge. So, like I said, if at edge here, and then I gave a couple different cases for determining if you're at the edge. So we'd say if the first case is index or inner index equals 0, so that means that we're printing the first star in our row. So we'd say j equals 0. So just showing you what that outputs, I'll print this off really quick here. So I'm going to get rid of the rest of my function calls just so we can focus on this. And of course I forgot my new line. I need to say printf after our outer loop finishes. So with the I equals 0 component, C, it's going to print the left side of our triangle, or j equals 0. So that's the first component. That's inner index equals 0. That's going to print the left side. Now, in order to print the right side, we need to check if the inner index plus 1 equals the outer index. So we would say, or j plus 1 equals I, which is our outer index. So recompile that again. And that's going to print our right side of our triangle. And then in order to print the bottom side of the triangle, we need to put in a final condition. We need to say, or outer index equals height. So we need to say I equals height. Now, in order for this to actually work correctly, we need to change our outer for statement to, instead of being less than height, we need to say less than or equal to height. And there we can see we have our triangle printed. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that is the triangle code. So the final one I'm going to do is diamond, which is going to take a little bit of time, but I think it'll be pretty easy. I'm going to skip all of this stuff. So I did give you full credit if you were off by 1 in any case. I didn't really care that much. As long as the diamond was within 1 or 2 of where I wanted it to be. So we need to read in height. Say scan out into height. We need to say h for half of height. So there's 3 different outer loops here. There's the upper loop here, there's the middle row here, and there's the bottom row. Now, the reason why we have a one in the middle here for the middle row is because we always print half of pseudocode isn't right. It needs to be H. This should be H instead right here. Sorry about that. So, actually, based on the pseudocode, a lot of your code might have actually been more right. So if I did actually end up taking a half a point off on your diamond because it was twice as high, send me an email. I'll actually give you full credit for that one because my pseudocode was wrong. And if you implemented per the pseudocode, then you were actually correct. So if I did take a half point off, send me an email. So, but I will continue on working on this one if I was meeting the actual requirements for assignment 5. So I'd say for I need 3 indexes. I need int I, j, k. I'd say for I equals h, I is greater than 0, greater than or equal to 0, I think, and then plus plus I. So that's our first loop. We'd say for j equals 0, j is less than the outer index, which is h, and then plus plus j. And then we'd print a space. And in our next loop, we would print stars. We would say for, also need to have another variable just like before to store height minus outer index. So we'd say temp equals height minus I, which is the outer index, or not height, but h. And then we would say j equals 0, j is less than temp, and j, or plus plus j. Sorry, we can't use j. We already used that for the first inner loop. Go back and say k, jk. And then we print star. So what that's going to leave us with right now, it should be a triangle that's half as tall as we would like. So I'd say never mind. So go back, look at our loop variables. Somewhere along the lines, I'm of course adding instead of subtracting. So when I say something like height to 0, that implies that height's going to be a positive number, so we need to go from height and decrement I instead of increment it. So miss the new line again. So I need to print a new line after my loop is done. Need to actually compile it first. So that's going to print a triangle this 5 high, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's good enough for the first component of our diamond. So the middle is pretty easy. You just go from 0 to height and then print stars. You just say, and actually in order to do this correctly, I need to go back here and I need to say less than or equal to. So I just say for I equals 0, I is less than height plus plus I, printf star, or in this case we'll do star space. And that will give us the middle row of our diamond. Not quite. Yep, so I forgot again that I need to use h instead of height. And that's off by 1. So I need to say less than or equal to, I believe.
And don't you also need to add a new line?
I sure do. So this should still actually be off by 1 on that. Oh, no, there we go. We're actually on. Okay, so that's the top and the middle component of our diamond. Then finally, we need to do the bottom row. So we'd say for I equals 0, I is less than h, I or plus plus I. Then we'd start out our inner loop, our first inner loop. I'd say for j equals 0, j is less than or equal to the outer index, which is I. And then I'd say plus plus j. Then I'd print a space. Starting our second loop, I'd say, so when you go from 4, 0 to height minus outer index, so again I need to say temp equals h minus I, which is outer index, and I need to say for I equals 0, I is less than temp plus plus I, and then print a star. And then after this loop is all completed, we print a new line. So this should almost be right. I think there's still something that might be wrong, but so printf, not just print. So it starts off right, but it still is a little bit off there. So again, what I'm doing here, well, let's see here. 0 to height. I plus plus. What I'm doing is I can't reuse I'm accidentally using my outer index as another index for my inner loop. So that's going to mess things up. I need to make sure I use a different variable. So I have I, j, k. So I change all my i's here to k's. And then recompile. And there's my diamond. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And that's perfectly fine. So that's diamond code. I think that's all I'm going to cover for the code for assignment 5, but is there any other questions about assignment 5? So remember that if you did actually end up printing a triangle that would double the height, and I noted that in my feedback, and I took a point off, or half a point off, just let me know, because that's probably actually correct based on pseudocode. So any questions on assignment 5? With that, I'm going to go and talk about quiz 3 really quick here. Shouldn't spend too much time on it. So I haven't actually graded quiz 3 yet, but I will go through and I will look at what the correct answers were. If you, again, at any time feel like that my answer wasn't correct, then just let me know. So with this loop, we're going to loop from 0 to 9, which is going to give us 10 iterations. So with 2 stars, this is going to print 20 stars. So what's the smallest number printed here? We're going to loop from 0 to 10. So the smallest number printed is 0. The largest number printed, or sorry, we're not going to loop from 0 to 10. We're going to loop from 0 to 9 with 10, so that's going to give us 10 iterations. With this one, we're going to loop from 0 through 9 again, so the biggest number we can have is 9. So how many stars are printed here? We're going to start at 0 and go from 0 through 9, so we're going to have 10 iterations here. So again, we're going to print 10 stars. How many stars are printed here? Same again, we have 10 stars. We're going from 0 through 9. So how many stars are printed here? We're going through 0 through 9 again, and we're going to do it for every time that we print 10 stars, or we're going to do the inner loop 10 times. And in the inner loop, we're going to do this 10 times. So we're going to print out 100 stars. This one, we're going to do the inner loop 10 times again, but instead of printing that many stars, we're going to print the outer index. This essentially just, we're going to print the outer index number of stars. So we'd start out the first time around, we'd print nothing. Second time we'd print 1 star. Third time we'd print 2 stars. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So calculator, not calendar, but calculator. So 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 6 plus 7 plus 8 plus 9 equals 45 stars. So how many new lines are printed in this loop? So we're only printing a new line at the end of our outer loop. So we print exactly 10 because it's 0 through 9, the possible values for I, and with 10 iterations. So how many numbers are printed here? We're going to print the number if I is even, because we take I mod 2 equals 0, which means if it's even. So the numbers that are going to be printed are 0, 2, 4, 6, and 8. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 numbers. So the correct answer is 5. And then finally, how many stars are printed in this one? So if I equals 0, we're going to skip that iteration. That's what the continue means. We're going to skip it. So we're immediately going to go on to the increment and continue on. So then when I equals 1, we're going to print 1 star. When I equals 2, we're going to print 2, or when I equals 1, we're going to have 1 star. Then when I equals 2, we're going to have 2 stars. I equals 3, we're going to have 3 stars. I equals 4, we're going to have 4 stars. But then when I equals 5, the loop is going to finish, and the loop is over. So correct answer for that one is 4. So any questions? Anybody feel like I made any errors on any of my calculations for quiz 3? Yep.
What is that?
Sorry.
When I tried to use I used to think that changes wrong.
For which one?
All of them. I don't know.
What do you mean? So like 10 every time for...
10 stars. All of them.
There was a significant number of them that were 10.
Yeah, but I remember it. Yeah, but like looking 6. I remember doing. I did try that one out. It was 10 stars. I don't know why.
Okay, well let's just run it really quick here and see what we get. Where am I at here? You get good. I don't want you to do that. I want you to go through all the work of typing it out. So if you can figure it out yourself, like by all means do it. But so that's going to print 100 stars. There's no new lines there or anything, but I mean, if you wanted me to, there is exactly 100 there. So I'm not going to tell you. How am I supposed to write quizzes if I tell you how to magically do it?
Wait, I had fucking sat there and counted one by one. Yeah. Sucked.
Well, realistically, though, you should have been the objective of this. The objective of this assignment was not to copy this code into the terminal and run it. The objective of this assignment. Okay.
I was counting to make the stars.
But what now? Yeah, I'm going to talk. So realistically, you should see this. You should see 0 through 9, so there's going to be 10, this is going to run 10 times, and then you should see this is going to run 10 times. So 10 times 10 is 100. And realistically, like, you shouldn't necessarily have run that code, but I just wanted to show that that's a thing you could do, so you wanted me to go over this one again?
Yeah, I got.
Okay, let's just run it really quick, make sure my output is actually correct.
So what I thought it would skip 5 is 36, 7, 8, 9.
Nope, when we encounter a break statement, our loop immediately exits.
So it's like 4.
Yep. So only 4 stars. Just because I left it in there.
So if you had break in the first.
If I had break in the first one, it would print nothing. It would print no stars, because I is starting out at 0, and it would immediately exit. So that's quiz 3 for everybody. Any other questions? Quiz 3, anything up until this point that I can talk more about? I think I'll actually defer the new topic of variable arrays to Wednesday, but
What would it look like then if it skipped 5 instead of 6, 7, 8, 9? Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8.
yeah, if I put a continue here, then we would print 8 stars, I believe. So we'd skip. So we have 10 iterations. So if I was to go from 0 through 10, we'd my I possible values would be 0 through 9, so that's equals 10 total iterations. So if I was to continue in both I equals 0 and I equals 5, that would just be skipping 2 of the print stars. So I would print 8 total stars. So that's that.
What does the continue actually do?
Again, what happened? So remember how our loop works? The first step of our loop is step 1 of our loop is initialization. Then we do a comparison. If our comparison is true, we run our statements, and then we increment, and then we go to step 2. So remember that if we hit a continue statement in our run statements here, we're immediately going on to step 4, which is our increment statement. If we hit break, we're immediately going to go down to number 6, which is continue executing. So let's continue executing after loop. So, assignment 6 won't necessarily make a lot of sense without the topic I was going to cover today, but I do want to get it into your hands so you can start thinking about it and potentially working on it if you want to. So, assignment 6, you can find it in D2L, week 11, assignment 6. So what I'm going to have you do is read into integers n and m, create an array with n number of elements, generate n random integers, 0 through m, and store them in the array. And then calculate the following items on the array. I want you to calculate sum, min, max, and mean. So each bullet should be contained in its own function. If you don't use functions, I'll take up to 5 points off. If your code isn't formatted well, I'll take up to 5 points off. So you also probably want to print the numbers that you generate so you know if your calculations are right, so you can actually go through and with a calculator test the numbers that you have generated in your array. So run dist assignment 6 to see example output. What am I at here? I got some stuff going on. Dist assignment 6. So I will enter a size of 10 with my limit on my random numbers being 10, so that will generate 0 through 9 as possible random numbers. These are my numbers generated. This is my sum of my random numbers. My lowest number is 0. My maximum number is 9, and my mean is 4.5. Yep, you'd set it up very much similar, or very similarly. Yep. But what you really want to do is store all of your numbers into an array, pass that array into each of the functions, and calculate it based on that. Yep. Yep, the mean definitely should be a decimal point. It doesn't necessarily. It however much you want. I don't have any specific. Yep.
How many bonus points is the other calculation one?
Yep. So there is also standard deviation, which is going to be a lot of work. I'll tell you that right now. But if you do complete that, I will give you an additional 10 points. So, but that's going to take a significant amount of work. So due next Wednesday. So you have plenty of time to work on it. Any questions about assignment 6? The one thing that is kind of up in the air right now is create an array with n number of elements. So I didn't want to spend a lot of time talking about it today because we are running out of time. But one of the things you can do is we talked about making an array with a specific number of elements. So R10 will give me an array with 10 elements in positions 0 through 9. But what we can actually do is we can instruct C to essentially give us a certain number of elements based on an array or based on a variable. So I could say size, and then I could say int size, and then I could scanf %i into size. So we can make arrays with different sizes based on user input or other numbers that we have. So we don't necessarily just have to say array of size 10. We can actually give it a variable name, and it will kind of dynamically allocate that memory. So that's how you would approach that problem. We can talk more about examples on Wednesday. So any questions about assignment 6 right now, or anything else that we've talked about in this class? If not, that's all I have for you today. So stick around if you have any other questions or you want me to help you with anything.